Hello and welcome once again to It's a Frankly Hairy podcast. This is the 50th edition of it, if I'm counting correctly. I'm your host, Frank Weber. So glad that you could join me in the forest for, I believe it's the 50th time. I'm not sure about bonuses or whatever, but we're going to call this the 50th episode. And I couldn't do it all without you, so thank you for joining me for all these episodes. Thank you for tuning in loyally. I can do it without you. And I love you and appreciate you for it. On the show today, I've got a pretty packed show. I'm going to be discussing a lot of things. It's going to be kind of like the question and answer thing that I've done 2 or 3 times in the past, except this time I'm just going to give a word or a phrase and make a commentary about it. So we're going to go through a few of those here in just a little bit. Before I get started, though, besides thanking you for 50 great episodes, I don't know, I was going through a lot of stuff today. I'm recording a little bit early. It's the Friday before. This is March 14th, and I decided to record a little bit early so I could enjoy my spring break next week. Some of you may have heard that Texas Tech University, the main campus in Lubbock, and I think the Health Science Center there, shut down a couple of days early for spring break because of a big, what the hell was that? They had some sort of natural gas fire below ground, and there was yellow flames coming out of the manholes or something very surreal that also led to a campus-wide power outage, and then everybody was sent home by Thursday morning, I think, and I don't really know what that was about. It was pretty impressive, though, that it happened over such a large area, if you've ever been to the campus. And I don't know a lot of details about it, but I figured I would comment on it real quick because we're enjoying a couple of extra days of spring break technically because of that, although since I'm distance learning, I'm still kind of going on with studies as usual until the scheduled spring break. But now outside of that, I'm going through some things right now. It's been a tough last couple of weeks, and I'm trying to get my house fixed, and I'm not really going to go into a lot of detail about that and getting the construction going and insurance claims and all that stuff. I may talk about it some future episode, but not today. I'm going to keep it pretty light and keep it kind of fun, I think. And I've just been going through a lot of things, and not just with observations of that, but also just life observations. And I started wondering, like, why the hell am I so surprised at everything now? I mean, a lot of times when I get mad and I have a big temper, I feel like it's because I'm so surprised at something, and something happened that wasn't expected, and I don't know why I should be surprised at anything anymore. I mean, this is a crazy world that is off its rocker and may break its orbit at some point in the future, for all we know, and I don't know why I'm so caught up in all that stuff. A world that works less than ideal than I kind of feel like it should, and I know it can work more optimally, and that's what this show is really about, is for me to comment on this stuff and wonder why everything is so fucking wrong in this rock that we're on. And so anyway, I think I would do better health-wise and, physically, mentally, emotionally, all that stuff if I just was less surprised, and I guess for the way some people would call it, roll with the punches. And but anyway, when I give a few words or phrases here in just a bit, these are going to be observations and opinions on some things that I guess were kind of surprising to me, or things that I like to complain about. But again, I just have to recognize them as part of the world we live in, and part of the life that we have in this particular era, so to speak. So I'm in my 48th year on this earth, and I still haven't learned to just accept certain things as being reality and possibly will never change, I guess you could say. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the meat of the show today, if you will. So the first word today is wildfires. Okay, so I'm not going to go into a great bit of detail because I talked about this 2 shows ago, I think, but we had another apocalyptic wind day today here in the Texas Panhandle, and it was pretty scary. I think, so we had a gust, or Amarillo had a gust of 83 miles an hour, something crazy, and it was knocking down some people's fences. I think we got away with very minimal, if any, damage, so praise the Lord for that. And then we turned on the news at 5 o'clock and saw that there's at least a couple of wildfires again in the Panhandle. We had this, was it last spring or the spring before? I don't know. All the years just run together now, but obviously high wind and dry conditions lead to wildfires. But I've always wondered, I have kind of this Smokey the Bear attitude about preventing, not just forest, we don't have any forests around here, but I mean, you can prevent fires in general. I mean, most people know, I think they know not to weld outdoors in these conditions, and they know not to drive over dry grass with their catalytic converters, causing a fire. At least I think they know that. And then smoking is down among the population in general, I think. So I don't know if that there's anybody flicking cigarette butts out the window too much anymore, although I think I still see that once in a while. It reminds me, and I don't know if I've talked about him on this show before, but I had an Uncle Lee J, my dad's brother, who's been departed for over 3 decades now. And I probably should talk about him a lot more because he lends himself to comedy. And he always kind of talked slow and I guess sort of guttural. He was like, "Hey, Frank, goddamn son of a bitch, go get me a Perlite and a pack of Winstons." Although actually I wasn't old enough to buy either one of those back then, but he was an oddball. I remember him he smoked a lot. He smoked the Winstons, and I could see him flicking cigarette butts, probably lit ones out the window. And one time he took my dad's ashtray in his my dad's Chevy Love that he drove around, 79 Chevy Love, and just threw the ashes out the window, just a big litter bug. And I don't think any of them were hot, I mean, my dad actually didn't smoke, so I'm kind of wondering if Lee J was using it for himself. Excuse me. But he was kind of an oddball. I think he was what people would call I always get confused on this term, never do well or ne'er do well guy in the family. I think he worked some odd jobs and lived at home with his mother on the farm, and would, a lot of times would go out to his shed and work on his tractor and do other weird shit out there. I don't know. Maybe he had a stash of porns and jacked off for all I know. I don't know. Have no idea. He had this old Chevy truck, probably a late 70s Chevy truck that broke down in like 82 or something like that, and stayed under the tree for 7, 8, 9 years or something until my dad had it removed. I don't know. Supposedly was a really good mechanic, but couldn't fix his truck under the tree. And so I don't know. He was never, we were kind of, or at least I was kind of scared of him. I mean, he was kind of a belligerent drunk and would kind of threaten people, but I don't know. He was at best, I guess, an annoyance. But the wildfire thing and people throwing cigarettes and cigarette butts out the window reminded me of him, and that's why I'm talking about it. He would be a great comedy bit, I think he might make a great Saturday Night Live character or something in the, what's the word? Something of the mold of like a Larry the Cable Guy, except Larry the Cable Guy was a lot more, is still a lot more lovable, and but I think Lee J could be really funny as well. So I think that's a good idea for future shows to bring him back. But anyway, I was reminded of him today with these wildfires going on, and why I still don't understand how wildfires ever get started, even in these conditions. I would figure people would be more careful, but they just are so careless. I think it may go back. We had some kind of a fire on the farm way back then, and the fire department showed up to help put it out, and they were able to get it under control. But I wonder if Lee J started that too. And this is something years and years ago. But anyway, that's how my mind works. Start thinking about wildfires, I start thinking about my long departed Uncle Lee J. And anyway, that's about all I have to say on that. Why the hell do wildfires even begin? I don't get it at all. If you do, please feel free to drop me a line or make a comment. I would love to hear from you. I'm always loving to hear from somebody out there. All right, so switching gears, next topic. Oh, you're all going to love this one, is Hallmark movies. And two things that I'll say off the top of my head is they suck, and I could write a much better story, first of all, that would become a much better movie. That is without question. They're all tailored toward women and kind of an ideal romantic situation. They all pretty much have the same plot. I used to get accused of watching shows when I was a kid that some other kid would tell me, like, oh, the Dukes of Hazzard they all have the same plot. And I'm like, well, they don't all have the same plot per se. They have a lot of the same plot elements, but they don't all have the same plot. I think the same kid would say the same thing about James Bond movies. They all have the same plot. I'm like, no, they have the same plot elements generally, but no, they're not the same plot. I mean, they diversified after a while and had different bad guys and stuff. So no, they don't all have the same plot. However, with Hallmark movies, they do all have the same plot. Usually I watch some of them with my wife, who likes that shit. And I'm like, it's usually some girl out of New York that goes to some weekend trip in the country, like in Vermont or some place like that, and meets this guy, and they manage to like each other for a little while, and then they have some conflict near the end. It looks like they're going to break up, and then they get together back at the end, and it's all happily ever after. And some of the shows happen in foreign countries and stuff, but it's all a bunch of shit. It's all a bunch of fiction. Kind of like me, trying to live in a world where I'm surprised all the time. But the only good thing that I'll say about them is that they do have a lot of, they do tend to have a lot of eye candy for the guys. I like Lacey Chabert. I think she's a very attractive young lady. And Candace Cameron Bure used to be in a lot of those. But then I think she's kind of doing the same thing, but then moved to a different channel or something when Hallmark went woke or something like that. But the thing that I absolutely cannot stand, though, they go crazy on the Christmas movies. Okay, so late October, before Halloween through New Year's, it's all Christmas movies. They don't show anything else. They don't show the Golden Girls. They don't show what other things are on there? Is the Reba McEntire's old show, is that on that channel too? I don't know. But they'll do this over 2 months of Christmas movies, and then they'll do it again in July. And then apparently they'll still put these Christmas movies on I don't care if it's movies or music. That's all sappy shit that nobody should watch or listen to. But today is March 14th, and then I see my wife watching a movie on Hallmark Channel that happens to be a Christmas movie. And from my perspective, the glow of Christmas, I know it's been almost 3 months ago now, but, it hasn't quite died yet, that glow. And I'm still trying to get it to die, and it doesn't help by having some fucking Hallmark Christmas movie being put on in the middle of March. So anyway, that's my diatribe on that. Love to hear what you think on that too, by the way. The next term is Lenten Fish Frys. All right, so for those of you who are Christian and I guess fairly religious about it, you probably know that right now we are in the season of Lent and have been for, actually, by the time this airs, we'll have been in it for 2 weeks, actually. I've gotten to a point in my life where I am less and less interested in tradition and ritual, including Lenten giving things up and sacrifices and things like that. I've basically gotten to the point where if somebody asks me, well, what did you give up this year for Lent, Frank? I'm like, I gave up giving up anything for Lent because I want to live my life to the full and I want to live my life in freedom. And, you can do whatever you want to if you feel like it helps you spiritually or moves you closer to God and all that. But I'm like, it doesn't mean anything to me anymore. And the concept of Lent is a little bit, if I know you can go to, seminary and study all this stuff, but the concept of Lent is a little bit lost on me because there is no season of Lent in the Bible. There is no Ash Wednesday. And it's supposed to be based off of Jesus' temptation for 40 days and 40 nights in the desert. But that was at the beginning of his ministry. It was not near Good Friday or Easter. And, losing my train of thought again. That 40 days and 40 night period could have happened probably any time of the year, not necessarily in February, March, and April. Probably could have been any time based on that. So I'm not a big, follower or supporter of the season of Lent anymore. And so my wife and her Christian persuasion, I'm not going to tell you who they are. I mean, if you listen to the show before, you know who they are, but they make a huge fucking deal about, not about fast. Well, I guess technically it's fasting and sacrifice, quote unquote, particularly on Fridays in Lent and on Ash Wednesday, where they're not allowed to eat meat, which is a subjective term because for me, from a scientific perspective, meat is just basically muscle tissue of an animal. And apparently they're not allowed to eat animals that either live on the land or fly in the air, but they can eat those that live in the sea. But to me, it's still all meat. It's all muscle tissue. And the idea is that they're, somehow eating seafood doesn't satiate them as much, and it seems like more of a sacrifice. Denying oneself or something like that. But then, because of that, because they can eat fish and seafood, they have these big fish fries where people can absolutely do all you can eat and gorge themselves. And then in that regard, are they really still sacrificing? Because, obviously they're eating as much as they want to. So it doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense to me. I still try to go ahead and eat meat on Fridays anyway. I sneak some through. I don't really care what she wants to feed me or not. It's none of her business. I'm going to eat whatever I want to because, again, I want to live life to the full. I want to be free. I want to be, above all, free in the land of the free is very important to me as well. So that's my position on those. You're free to disagree. You're free to call me names. You're free to call me an idiot or whatever you want to do it. Whatever you want to do, just, drop me a message, leave a comment. Love to hear from you. Tell me if I'm right. Tell me if I'm wrong, whatever the case may be. Okay. I know we're kind of starting to run over 20 minutes already, but that's okay. I could go all night doing stuff like this. I think it would be a lot of fun. Maybe we should do that sometime. The next topic is, and I may have talked about this a few weeks ago after the Super Bowl. I can't remember now. But the next topic on my list here is Jerry Jones and the Ford Motor Company. Okay, so I'm just kind of annoyed. He's obviously the face of the Dallas Cowboys and has been for 36 years now. Has it been that long? Shit, that's a long time ago. Oh, man, I feel so old. I'm not real big on him being in commercials, or I think he's in some TV show now about oil or land or something like that now, too. Some streaming show that I don't watch because I'm like, I don't know, a lot of the streaming shows are missing something, I think. But anyway, so in the fall, he was in, before they started doing the Christmas commercials. So this is like September, October, early football season. He was doing these Ford truck commercials with some of his family members. I think that maybe his daughter was on one, and maybe his wife. I'm not sure if I can't really put a name to the face there, but anyway, he started showing up in these Ford truck commercials, which is bizarre because I just don't want to see, the camera is always on him at games, and he does other things to promote himself and maybe the team. But, you see him driving around in a Ford pickup. I'm like, that's ridiculous. He doesn't drive Ford pickups. He doesn't even drive himself. Because my brother and I saw, when we went to WrestleMania there at this Cowboy Stadium about 3 years ago, we were leaving the second night, and there was this black Suburban, and there was like a lot of commotion around it. People were trying to crowd around it and say hi to somebody in there. Turns out it was Jerry Jones himself, and of course he's very fan friendly. He's not going to be, mean to the fans that he meets and all that. But I can tell you for a fact that he does not drive himself. And now that football season has passed one more time, he's in another series of Ford truck commercials, driving a Ford truck again with a lovely young country singer whose name, I'm not sure who that is. They're basically saying Ford is the best in Texas. I'm not sure what her name is. I don't think it can be Lainey Wilson because she's from Louisiana. Or I don't know. They could do anything they want to with these advertising now. It doesn't matter where they're from. But yeah, with this great country star, good-looking young chick, and here he is again in Ford commercials. So, and then people, of course, are pissed off at him because it looks like the seriousness of having the team win is really gone again, and they're not really serious about competing or winning the Super Bowl ever again. Kind of thought that would happen back in 1996, but it is what it is. Jerry, when will you relinquish control to somebody else? Can you tell us that? Anyway, I guess I have time for one more. I technically have given you 4 here today. I want to give you 5 just as more of a round number. Some of you know I'm a wrestling fan. Maybe not quite as into it as I was a few years ago, but apparently there's a lot of stuff in the news that John Cena has turned heel, and I don't think he's ever been a heel. But I think what's really more puzzling, because wrestling will write him or whoever, they'll make people a hero, or they'll make them a heel, just for whatever might seem cool for the promotion at that time, and especially since WrestleMania is coming up here like in another month or so. So in a lot of ways, wrestling is what wrestling does, right? But what I don't get about it is, John Cena's about my age. He's gotten into some other things that he's doing, like films and stuff, has kind of moved on. And a lot of these wrestlers will still manage to come back for some period of time to wrestle again. I guess maybe they really miss it. I don't know. I don't know. It just puzzles me, because I've been in dentistry for a number of years, and if the circumstances were right, I might go back, but I just don't see them ever becoming right. And so now I'm moved on to another chapter and another phase, and hoping to be happier with that. So when I see, people coming back and over again to a profession that they supposedly retired from, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't really deal with that very well. You could say that I'm surprised by it, I think. And I'm probably exceedingly surprised so much. I probably shouldn't be so surprised. I should see that as just part of this crazy world that we're living in, an upside-down world. Well, anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here, wrap this show up. I think it's been pretty fun. Hopefully it's been fun for you as well. 50th episode already, and looking forward to doing so many more here for you. I was thinking earlier about talking more about construction issues and insurance and the problems with that, but I'm glad that I didn't. I think that would have been a really difficult and maybe boring topic for the show today. I think a lot of times I'm just trying to do my thing here. I just want to be free in the land of the free, here in the United States of America, and I mean, that's a novel concept, isn't it? It just feels like I'm not for some reason, and although I enjoy the freedom of speech and the platform that podcasting gives me, that's something that I can't really put a value on. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Again, like I said, sharing is caring. Tell your friends and family and coworkers and people you meet at the store, grocery store, or Walmart, or car dealership, or the police officer who pulled you over this morning while you were speeding, whatever it may be. Just tell him about the show and hit that subscribe button. Leave me a comment. Send me a personal message if you like. I'd love to hear from you. Really want this to be interactive. Gave a lot of opinions and said a lot of curse words on this show tonight, more than I usually do. But I'd love to hear from you, and it's all because of you, the fans, and I can't believe I've made it to 50 episodes already, and technically we're still about a month short of when I started this podcast. We started about mid-April last year, was April 17th or something like that. So it's been quite a run already, and can't wait to see where it takes us from here on. So, but anyway, this is your host, Frank Weber, signing off from It's a Frankly Harry podcast. I look forward to seeing you again here in the forest next week, and for many, many more weeks after that. So I'm going to go ahead and go ahead and sign off. Love you and appreciate you very much. We'll see you again next time. Bye.